This week on the TT Show, AMD relaunches the RX 7900 GRE from $549. Reddit is selling its user data for $60 million. Nintendo is suing the creators of an emulator. Microsoft is using AI to force a Windows update. Sony wants to grow its first-party titles on PC. Epic Games hacked. Holy Grail of Zelda games sold. Historic moon landing, new Nintendo Switch 2 release window, Apple's EV, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the TT Show. My name is Jak Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Kosta Andriadis, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
How are you, my friend?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Just when we thought that the GPU launches were over, AMD came out with a relaunch.
Of course. They just really want to push you to your absolute limits, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, because it was like the super GPUs, obviously. Anybody that's been following it, there was like 3 launches in the space of 3 weeks. And basically, AMD's initial response was to like lower prices of like certain models. And so like there's competition now, which is great. So if you're looking for a GPU, now's the probably time. If you're, I guess if you're in that sort of like enthusiast bracket with like the 4070s sort of exist. Like if you're in that sort of price bracket, then yeah, now's the time. So, but yeah, the weird thing is that AMD's come out with what they're calling the 7900 GRE or Golden Rabbit Edition.
Ooh.
So this was released last year because that was the year of the rabbit in China. This year is the year of the dragon. I think if I'm wrong on that, apologies. But yeah, so it was released last year before the 7800 XT, before the 7700 XT. It's basically like a cut down version of their flagship, like really cut down, like power wise, some spec wise and things like that. And it was released in China, and then it made its way to some other markets, but only for like brand new systems. So it was never really meant to be, I guess, like a standalone or part of the lineup. So what they've kind of done is that maybe they've got extra ones, or they're going to produce them. So I guess as a response to like the supers, they're launching it for $549. So basically, like the context makes, if you look at like the 7800 XT is $499 if you're just looking at MSRPs or retail recommended retail prices. Then you got the 4070 at $549. Then you got the 4070 Super at $599. So basically, this adds another GPU at $549, and it's kind of aggressive pricing because what you've got is basically like a cut down 4080 sort of class, like, you know, a high level GPU, like cut down and resold as like a more of like a 4070 class. And performance is pretty much close to the 4070 Super. Because these were available in China like last year, there's already been like, you know, people have had copies of them. There've been like, you know, reviews and, you know, people saying that, oh, you know, this is a pretty great card, you know, but it's only available in certain markets. So it's no mystery as to like how performant it is. But it's really just the price. So they've kind of like relaunched. That adds context. So there was an embargo on the price for this week, and I've been testing them for the past week. And that was just based on, so like the review only makes sense when you know that they're actually launching it globally at a lower price point to compete directly with the 4070.
Yeah.
So it's the same price as the 4070 and it's faster than it. And it's faster than the 7800 XT. Like, so like the 7800 XT was good value at $500. And this is 10% like more in terms of like dollars, but it's, you know, about 14% faster in some games. So it's like, it is better value than the best value RDNA 3 or Radeon card currently.
Does the claims from AMD, I'm just reading your news post here, at 1440p, AMD claims it's 14% faster. Did your testing...
And the 4070, yeah, it's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like double digits, so it's not like meaningless. So when because like it hasn't been released globally, the expectation by some was that it's only going to be like, it's basically a 7800 XT, which is similar to a 4070. Like it was only going to be like 4% or 5% faster, or like, like something low enough where it doesn't really matter, like where it's negligible, where it's like, oh yeah, it's a tiny bit more powerful. But this, when you get to like double digits, it's like at least noticeable.
Yeah, well, I like to, and this might be a bit of a rudimentary way of assessing performance, is I take like the total cost of the card, and if claims are 14% faster, then I take the price, find 14% of whatever that price is, and then compare it against the previous generation, or sometimes previous generation, or the card in the card that is below the card that I'm comparing in the stack.
That's right. Yeah. So basically, what you're looking at is there's a couple. Like if you're looking at just money value, there's like two sort of metrics that you look at. You look at price to performance, which is basically like how much is it costing you to get 100 FPS. Yeah. So let's say like this GPU hits X amount of speed, this one hits this speed, but like if you break down the cost, like what is the equivalent of that GPU hitting this target, and how much does it cost per frame, so to speak. Yeah. And the other measure, which isn't exactly cost, but it is, I think a factor, is just in terms of how efficient it is, like how power efficient it is, like how much power does it need to actually hit that performance. And what makes this like weird, I'll hold you up the Sapphire one that I reviewed, which is like a great looking card.
Oh wow. What color is that?
That's like it's like a full metal shroud. It's basically Sapphire's premium. It's got like an RGB strip at the top. It's like a premium GPU. That's so it's like a high-end GPU. So what was I saying? So like what makes it strange is that because this is like a 7900, so like the 7900 is their flagship, the XT and the XTX. You're getting into like 4080 levels of price. And so what they've done is, because this is cut down, it actually uses the same power as the 7800 XT, but because it's like a higher chip that's like with lower clock speeds, but like more things like RT accelerators and more stream processors than the 7800 XT, the way it's configured, it's actually a more efficient GPU than the 7800 XT. So it's like it's more powerful, more efficient. So it's like it's better value in terms of like those two metrics, like the price, the performance, I guess the price per watt, or the price per FPS, cost per frame, as well as the the efficiency measurement as well, which makes it a strange release, because it kind of makes the 7800 XT look a little bit less bad, less good. Less good, because like what it means is that like the flagship, like the Radeon flagship, even though it's not as efficient as NVIDIA's GPUs, as we know, but like at the flagship level, they're pushed like clock speeds, power to hit maximum performance at 4K and stuff like that. Whereas this one is like stripped back, a little bit more modest. It's kind of like if you were like power limiting like a high-end GPU to kind of make it more efficient. So it's like, sure, it's not going to be pushing anywhere as many frames, but it's going to be like fast enough, really. Yeah. But way more efficient sort of thing. So that's kind of like what this is. And that seems to be hard coded. So then you get down to the thing is like, well, why does this exist? It's like maybe these are, when they make 10,000 GPUs, like, they make the chips, not all of them come out, hitting like the performance target, or they have to like you kind of like whatever it is, like you turn off like half of the XXX because like this one didn't come out right, so you can strip it back, and that's how you traditionally how you end up with so many models is like you make X amount of chips, and then you go like, well, these ones will be 4060s, these ones will be 4070s, these ones will be 40. If they're using the same sort of chip, like you can, depending on like the yield and like how they come out. So like
the wafer,
potentially this is
what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's right. So these are probably like
what do they call it? The silicon lottery.
Yeah, that's right. So these are probably just like like there were X amount of like the flagship ones that just weren't up to snuff, so we can just like strip them back or turn off XXX and then release it as this?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the silicon lottery comes out. So if the apologies for the audio listeners, I'm just trying to make a circle in my camera right now.
Oh.
It is a massive wafer that is approximately, I would say, maybe 3 meters across by 3 meters in a circle, and the ones closer to the center are the most efficient GPUs, and the ones on the outside are GPUs that are, I'm guessing, this card. They're
Potentially,
less,
I'm not
less
exactly
efficient.
sure how it works, but yeah. So basically, yeah, that's what happens is that, like, you know, it comes out and it's like, yeah, we can use X out of X, which is why, you know, the chiplet design of these high end Radeon GPUs is probably why they can launch this at such an aggressive price. Is because it's like a chiplet design. So like, you know, like a 4080 or 4090, which is monolithic. It is like a big chip on there, right, with X amount of, you know, CUDA cores and transistors and all sorts of craziness going on. Is that, like, you know, there's no way to actually sell that for any cheaper than, you know, a certain threshold. Obviously they can be discounted, like, you know, they're not like, they're not breaking even when they're selling these GPUs, right? They're making a profit, but like, there's probably no way they could like drop the price of the 4080 currently to something like this, or even like a 4070 Ti down to 500, for example.
Yeah, without beginning to cannibalize their own stack of cards. Yeah, no, that's,
so it's interesting.
This is interesting.
So it's AMD kind of like, and also as well, like in my review of the MSRP model, the XFX, and I've seen this brand across, like, you know, like Amazon, stuff like that. So I asked AMD, like, you know, they said, like, we've got these models, which one do you want to check out? Like, I'll think, oh, check that one out, because I haven't reviewed one of their cards before, and it's just like a bare bones black, you know, just no RGB, but just like a clean GPU. It's really good.
Yeah.
And that's one that'll be available for the 549.
That's awesome.
But in that review, I basically said, look, it's a great GPU, but it's a confusing name. Like, if you were to walk into a store and you saw GRE, 7900 GRE, you have no idea what this is.
Yeah. And
so,
if you're right in it being the year of the dragon, they should have done GDE, Golden Dragon Edition.
I would have just, like, if they're relaunching this GPU, they should have just got the hardware makers just to reprint boxes and just call it the 7800 XTX, because you've got the 7900 XT and the 7900 XTX.
Yeah.
And if the 7800 XT is $499 and this is coming in at $549, you might as well just call it the 7800 XTX.
Yeah, GRE seems pretty far away from the other naming. And
you got 7900 in there as well, which is like, oh, hold on a second, why is this $300 cheaper than the other 7900? You know what I mean?
It's a little deceptive in the naming.
It's confusing is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
but anyway,
that is good. That is good that they're coming out with a response.
It's so competitive, yeah. So basically within that $100 price bracket now, you've got 2 GPUs from AMD and 2 GPUs from NVIDIA that are all pretty powerful.
And I don't know, what was this here?
So you got basically 4 choices.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I'm just reading that news on it. That's really not. That's nice.
So you got the 4070, 4070 Super, 700 XT, and now this GRE.
Wow. And I do like that Sapphire design though. That is slick.
Yeah, the Sapphire is. I in the review I said this is the best looking Radeon GPU or Radeon design I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Because it's like it's all brushed metal, but also you've got that RGB strip on the top, which is fully configurable as well. Yeah,
we are suckers for minimalist.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. But I think, how can you not be though?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I hated the I can't remember what graphics card. I think it was like in the 2000 series, the MSI like Lightning or whatever it was. And it was just, it looked like a light show. Like you'd plug it in and the whole thing had like, there was like
some of them like they just go over the top.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing? Just give me essentially what a 4090 looks like, or that Sapphire card. I just want my graphics card in there with a beautiful brushed metal design.
Because this is like a lightsaber type of light strip, right?
Yeah, keep it subtle.
Set it to white. Turn the brightness down, so it's just a nice white glow.
Oh, that's perfect.
You know, and it's like, and it sits in your, like, you got your tinted glass case, and you just see that strip thing. You're like, that looks slick.
That's what we want. That's what we want. Is that about all you had on that new graphics card?
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we have on the menu? This episode, we're going to be absolutely smashing news, and it will probably be a little shorter because Kosta has to go meet a Zeus.
Yes.
What else do we have next? We have Reddit is selling all of our data.
Which is, so, okay. So Reddit, this was a report by Bloomberg. So, Reddit, as you know, is like probably one of the most popular social destinations on the net in terms of posting and discussions and threads and etc. etc. And a lot of it is just like memes and whatever. But so Bloomberg broke the story. Basically said that Reddit has signed a deal with an AI company. It doesn't specify which company.
I know which company.
You do?
I do. It is. New reports have come out. It was Google.
It was Google.
Yep. Hold on, wait. Reddit, Google sells data. I read, what was it? Yeah, 6 days ago from The Verge.
So they said it was Google.
Yeah, a deal reportedly worth $60 million per year will give Google real-time access to Reddit's data and use Google AI for Reddit search.
Yes. So basically, if you think of like Reddit, the amount of data that's on Reddit, this is like every post, every thread is going to be used for AI model training. So so it's basically like an annual licensing deal. So it's $60 million US per year for Google to just keep just using all of the data for training, right? And there's obviously some safeguards and measures in terms of like what happens and how it's handled, but it essentially means that anything that you've ever written on Reddit will be used to train an AI model. And Reddit is just such a wild west. That it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is, but because like there is like some extra layer to it, whereas Reddit is apparently they got an IPO, they're going to go public, and so they're looking to drum up valuation, as like an AI player, and this is before they go public as well, but also as well, this seems to have been in the works for a while because Reddit updated its data protection and privacy policy like months ago. And, and then obviously people on Reddit straight away pointed out, they're like, oh, so that's why they did that update. It's because of this, not because they wanted to safeguard data or whatever. Like, they implemented like new ways to be able to protect data and hold on to it, like, your privacy, blah, blah, blah. But it's just basically to say that, it's secure, but secure enough so we can just sell it.
Yeah, that I remember doing some coverage on this when the whole what was it? It was when all these AI models and like OpenAI was first coming into like the limelight, and Reddit was, what did they do? They got rid of that app that essentially everyone that is a big Reddit user was using.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing as well. Yeah, that's right. It was like the API to be able to.
That's it.
So you could create like an app, right? Like it's kind of like with Twitter as well. Like when they closed that off, like you got TweetDeck and you got the things that developers have access to, which is like the API, which is access to be able to basically repost that information, to be able to say like, I've got this Reddit app, and it's designed to look like XX and X. All the data comes from Reddit. You're still logging into Reddit, but you're just using my shell on top of their API, right?
Yeah.
Which accesses their network which is a common practice, which is why you have, which is why we used to have like, 5 different Twitter apps. Like,
Yeah.
each one just had like a different look and feels because they were all using the same API, but just different skins and themes on top. So when they closed off access to that, it was what I was saying before was basically, it was because of that. They were saying like because of data protection, security, extra, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And now we know that it was to be able to close off.
Yeah, this is
access.
So that app, I'm just reading some of my old coverage from June 2023. So the app was Apollo, and it was very popular, and they essentially killed it overnight. But this is what Reddit's CEO said. When asked if he believed third-party apps such as Apollo add value to Reddit, Huffman, wait, what's his full name again? I'll get it for you. Where is it? Oh, give me a sec here. Huffman. Steve Huffman. He said, quote, "Not as much as they take. No way. They need to pay for this. That is fair. What our peers have done is banned them entirely. And we said, no, you know what? We believe in free markets. You need to cover your costs. That's our business decision, and we're not undoing that business decision." So it is
like what it is. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like like I think what it is just like, it's like initially when these platforms are just like trying to grow, right? It's like, yeah, everybody jump on, right? Like if you want to have your own app and that's what they're banking on, right? Like, like Apollo, right? They're banking on that to be like super popular because it brings more people into Reddit, right? And the same with like TweetDeck. TweetDeck brought more people into Twitter because it added that layer of
it's for power users,
right?
Yeah.
Like, you can customize it like that. Like it just makes it feel like more of a platform for, and it caters for an audience. But then once you grow to a certain size, you can just say no. And that's essentially what they're doing is like,
Well, Reddit has approximately, I'm just looking at Statistica right now. They have over 800 million monthly active users. And it is...
which is a lot.
I mean, think about how much data that is generating from all those different subreddits. And to go back to my article from June, Huffman said that Apollo would need to pay as much as $20 million per year to be able to have that API. So
yeah, that's right. Like you make it free and then you just put a price on it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like they go, okay, well, if you want to make the Apollo app, you can buy the API. I wonder if that was a separate thing entirely. So like you could still buy the API from Reddit, but you don't get to keep the data. Or
well, no, you're basically paying a license to be able to access or to be able to use the API for your app, right? It's kind of like TweetDeck as well. Like these software developers, they don't own like they don't have to pay like the server cost for like all that Reddit data.
Yeah, but you can't harvest it. You can't harvest the data going through.
Well, I mean, technically, like obviously because you've got like some sort of like access to it at like a code level, but there's obviously security and stuff, so it's not necessarily like you've got the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah. Okay.
But it kind of like shuts out, like, because you got access to like it's also like ad revenue, right? Like if you're accessing the Reddit API on your app, right, you can add now like ads, like you can monetize it, right? But like all Reddit is doing is just sending you data, right? Like they're just getting requests and like they're not making any real money off it unless they charge you 20 million a year or whatever it is. To do it
very true. App. Very true. Well, what do you think about this then? Do you think this is an appropriate move for Reddit, or do you think this is going to make people leave Reddit? I don't believe anyone is going to leave Reddit.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think maybe some will, but like it's never going to be. I think that the whole issue of privacy has kind of like shifted in the last 20 years, so to speak. I think if you look to the year 2000 or 2010 or like maybe even before that sort of decade, I think people were concerned about privacy in a way that was a little bit different to now. I think generations coming up now they're kind of like growing up with the idea that not only is what they put out there public, but up for grabs in a way. Like there's not a sense that like like your information is like people like aren't as concerned with privacy now as that they used to be, and that comes down to like that extends to like AI. It's like, well, if you hear that AI is now scraping, like Meta's AI is obviously using every Facebook post, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about that? You're like, well, okay. Like most people would be not like, like at a certain point, people should be like up in arms saying like, hold on a second, you're using our personal information for X, next, next. That's a breach of trust. Well, so I don't like, I'm kind of like indifferent to it. Like, I don't think, like to me, like, okay, Reddit's doing that. Like, it just seems like that's par for the course for where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
With AI and stuff like that.
Yeah. I still think it's with sacrifices in private for you to get more convenience. So for you to go and have access to Facebook and for us to be able to communicate instantly and, I see your birthday posts and whatever. I have to sacrifice the trade-off for that convenience is privacy.
Yes.
And
in a lot of cases, yeah.
Yeah, it is very rare for a product to come out that is extremely convenient, that is like attracting millions and millions and millions of users and not somehow take some privacy away from each individual user for the purpose of monetary gain to make that platform exist.
Yeah.
I think the kids these days, or like, if you're in high school or something like that, they may not understand that trade-off at that kind of like very base level of, that this is how platforms actually make their money. But they are, like you were saying, they're growing up in a world where it's like, if you want to use something that...
But that's the norm, right?
That is the norm, yeah.
Like back in the day, it wasn't like ad companies were like using everything about your personality and your behavior to target ads directly to you, right? Like that you would have been that would be like 1984 sci-fi dystopian future level stuff.
George Orwell.
Right? Exactly, right? So like that's how that sort of behavior would have been perceived. But because like people are growing up with that, right? Like it's not to say it's like a good thing. Like I'm against telemetry and all that sort of stuff at that level, right? Where it's just scraping everything. Like everybody notices. It's like, oh, you say one thing and then next thing you know, there's an ad for it on your phone.
Yeah, you open up your Facebook feed and you were just talking about a new vacuum cleaner, like the Shark Navigator or whatever with your mum. And then you open up your Facebook feed and then boom, there's the Shark Navigator. It's the second or third post that you see. And you're like, what? Like, it was like 30 seconds ago.
If you remember a time before that was a thing, you would notice it more than if you grew up in a world where that is the norm.
For sure.
Right? So it's like a long game that they play. Like it's like, if you go on for long enough, if everything's being scraped, even if everything's being scraped just for AI training, like 10 years from now, if there's no laws in place, if that's just the norm, then it's just going to be accepted. There's obviously going to be vocal people against it, and there is issues with private, all that sort of stuff doesn't go away, but it just becomes, it's like, oh, well, what are you going to do?
And also to play devil's advocate against my own argument here, I also don't want to open up my Facebook feed and have ads for like Maybelline and makeup. Like I'm never going to...
Yeah, that's right. Like just random...
I'm never going to buy any of that. I'd rather my advertising be specific to me because, well, I might want to buy those things. So this is a tightrope balance between it becoming like too intrusive, where it's, constantly listening and it's always giving ads based on that. But then I also don't want just like random junk at the same time.
But you don't want, what data, you want it to be like semi-anonymous, right? You don't want information about you to be stored that shouldn't be. Like what does that factor into it? And it's the same with like AI, like scraping. Like if it's going to be scraping all of Reddit, like is there going to be like power use people that post a lot, like it's going to all that data is going to be like creating a profile where they know that person and then they find out more about that, like like it has to be a level of like where it's just, if it's just raw data and it's like the stuff.
Where's the line? Where is the line when it's like
we don't know exactly,
too
like,
much data is now intrusive on that user's life?
Yeah, like how much information is actually being taken?
Yeah,
like, we don't know.
I bet you it's more than what we think.
Oh yeah, way more.
And I bet you it is also cross-platform. So I believe that the ads that you see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I believe that data that is being used to create that online profile, I believe that is also being behind the scenes purchased by, and this is a complete theory that I've got, it's not founded in anything that I've read online. It's just, I think that this is happening based on my experience across multiple platforms. Other platforms like TikTok and I don't know, Snapchat or whatever, are purchasing your user profile from Meta and then using that data to then feed you ads when you're on different platforms. So instead of it being like a per platform kind of profile per user, it is now more sophisticated in a way where it can go, okay, Kosta uses Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Now let's create a user profile and aggregate all that data for all three of those platforms.
Yeah. And where it gets, not to like open up another can of worms, but because you got AI, right? So all this is different to like just ad revenue and, they're all just straight making money and selling data.
Yeah.
Like data as money. So what are these AI models that are going to be trained on Reddit going to be, like, what are they going to be used for?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? What's the goal? Like, and not only what is it going to be, what are these models going to be used for? Like, obviously they're going to be sophisticated models. That's in and of itself a given. But like, how is that going to be turned into money?
A product.
Product. How's it going to be used? Like, and what's it going to be capable? Like that. When it comes to like AI, it's just there's an extra layer of question marks.
Weirdness.
Because it's an arms race that we just don't know what the outcome is.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, this is something that we're definitely going to have to continue to talk about on the show and keep an eye on, because it is something that is very interesting, at least to me, and I hope to the listeners as well. Because this is if you really boil it down, this is each and every single internet user is being harvested and sold for something that we have no idea what the end game is. So maybe what if it is just like a humanoid robot that, they've impregnated the AI that has been trained on every user's data across every social media platform, and now it's like, the best person you can speak to ever. Because it can just go through its like data set and be like, oh, Kosta, yep, no worries, I'll just talk about everything that I want to talk about, that Kosta wants to talk about.
Oh yeah, that's it. Or that's it. Like one day you've just got AI workers.
Yeah.
They just hire, like you're just licensing, like it's cheaper
maybe
than human labor.
Oh, who knows? We'll keep our eyes on it.
Keeping on the so next story, like the AI stuff. This is a quick one.
Yeah.
So Windows 11.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love when we get forced to do things that we're not meant to do, Kosta. That we're not sure about.
Yeah. So like, like older, like this, like force updating in Windows is like
it's
like
commonplace
just in and of
at this
itself
point.
Just doesn't sound like a great thing, but like it's something that you do. Like like even back in the days of XP, like at some point it was like unless you had Service Pack 3. You're no longer supported, right?
Yeah.
In terms of security updates, because that's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically with Windows 11, 21H2, which is 2021's second half of the year version, or 2022 second half of the year version, they're going to be reaching end of life in terms of like, they're just too old and they got too many vulnerabilities that they can no longer be serviced with just like basic security updates or whatever the case is. Like you need to there's enough changes that you have to update to a more recent version of Windows 11, which, okay, that's in and of itself not a bad thing.
It's reasonable.
Yeah. So how do you force these devices to update? And as we know, like not every PC is the same. There's so many different configurations that, and Windows 11 is weird in terms of like, you know, there's features that don't work on some PCs. Like, you know, like
they've got hardware requirements.
In terms of like what PCs can run Windows 10 versus 11, it's not 1-to-1.
Oh yeah,
like
it's not even
we know
close.
that, right? Like not every, because some Windows 10 PCs can't even update to 11. Like I had like an old PC. It's like, no, sorry, you can't update. I'm like, all right. Like, wasn't even that old. Like, why?
Go on.
So basically what they're doing is that this is just so weird, like the way they just said it. So like they're going to do automatic updates targeting Windows 11 devices that are, you know, with these older versions that are approaching end of life in terms of servicing. And they're going to be using machine learning based training to safely roll out new Windows versions in phases for a smooth update experience.
As opposed to what?
So they're using they're using AI to it just basically says they're going to be using an AI model to pick and choose which devices to force update, and then to force those updates onto those devices without human intervention by the sounds of it.
So that would be as opposed to people manually choosing to update.
Yeah, so it's basically saying like, you know, this configuration, okay, well, let's roll out this update to this configuration. It will be basically an AI sitting, not, you know, like let's say the AI is a person, right? The AI will just say will just look at 50 million devices and just instantly go, all right, these 8 million, we're going to update. And we're going to update these ones this week, this one next week, this one next week. So the AI is going to be deciding or taking charge of the entire rollout process for an operating system update, which sounds, it's a little bit ballsy.
I have a visceral reaction to this at the moment, but I might be an outlier here because I'm running a beta version of Windows right now. Like I'm in the...
Oh, you're in the insider preview.
Yeah.
Check out.
Yeah, because I like to, well, we're tech journalists. So I read the patch notes and all that kind of stuff. And there's actually different tiers of what you can be in the insider program for those that don't know. And Microsoft recommends that, like, if you do want to get into the insider program, like, the higher on the tier list you go, the more unstable the new version of Windows is. So I'm at the recommended one where it's like updates will come out, the operating system will change. There's a little bit of stability issues, but they've been kind of like distilled down from the two previous tiers. So I don't necessarily mind that much, but I can see this being a violation of I don't want to say trust is probably the wrong word, but just
but this is like what people say when they say like there's going to be just AI automation, right?
Yeah.
But this is strange because it puts a lot of trust, right? Like how much trust do people in terms of like public perception have in terms of like Windows stability and a Windows update being like a big Windows update being flawless in terms of causing issues or whatever. Like every update causes issues, or every major one, because of the sheer number of hardware configurations there are for PCs.
Yeah.
Processors, whatever it is, like there's just so many different permutations, so many different drivers, so many different like keyboards, right? Like you got a different brand of keyboard that has a different driver or printer or whatever. It's like there's so many millions of variables, right? Which is why they're saying, okay, so we'll train our AI to be able to pick the systems to force update, blah, blah, blah. And you can see the logic behind it, right? Because it's so complex.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're now just saying, all right, the AI is going to take care of it.
Yeah, you're taking away the user's choice of whether they want this update. And also, like you were saying, with every new update, there is the possibility of you losing support in some area of your PC, like, and this hardly ever does happen, but like, say for example, if you have a Logitech keyboard, like I've got two of the same sitting right here, I update my Windows to the newest version, and for some reason my keyboard is now dropping in and out, like for no apparent reason.
I had like just when we had issues like a few weeks ago recording, like what I did was I updated Windows, and basically after, like, as soon as I turn on the PC, basically whatever, like, cause I was using the Wi-Fi that was on the motherboard, right?
Oh, right,
so
yeah.
Motherboard Wi-Fi, right, which has its own drivers, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. So what would happen was, within Windows would start, and within the first 5 minutes, like, the internet will be working fine, PC's working fine, but then the Wi-Fi would cut out, and then the PC would be like unusable, like almost like playing a game at like 2 frames per second.
What?
I'm like, this is fucked. Like, what is going on?
What? So the network adapter, the internal network adapter on the motherboard, like,
because I had updated everything. Like I did the opt-in to like preview updates as well. Like,
yeah.
One in Windows Update. For some reason, I decided to do that.
And
so then I basically had to go into recovery mode, and I restored like an older version of Windows.
No.
And then it was fine.
Okay. Well.
So like I was able to restore to like a previous pre-update version of Windows, and I was like, okay, so something about the Windows Update and this motherboard and this Wi-Fi, and maybe not necessarily even this motherboard or this Wi-Fi driver, but something else on my PC may be conflicting with that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not just the device or whatever. It's just so many variables.
I wonder.
So whatever was causing it was.
This is just an expansion on this idea that machine learning will be able to essentially target PCs based on their specifications and roll out updates.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Would the machine learning, and this isn't something that Microsoft has said, but could they, in that instance of you having trouble with the update, be able to identify that this update with your specific rig has issues and then roll out patches? Do you think that's an extension of this? Like, Kosta's PC is struggling with the newest update. Machine learning director goes, oh, ding, okay, well, he's having problems here. Roll out a patch.
There's too many customers for that. Too many different. You can't. I don't think that's even possible. It's just basically like a.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's just them like saying, well, this update will work on this PC. Roll it out, and if there's issues, roll it back.
I suppose that is
the only
better
thing they can do.
Yeah, this is
But anyway, like it basically, like, the next big update for Windows is going to be all about AI, right? So AI is going to be in charge of updating Windows. AI is going to be a huge part of Windows going forward.
Yeah.
Every aspect of it is basically the takeaway as well.
For sure. Did you want to jump over to Sony first-party titles?
Oh, yeah. All right, the land of consoles.
Yeah. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Wow. Yeah, we are starting to see a shift in the gaming market here, where the old guard is coming. The walls of exclusivity are coming down.
And it's also strange because, like, in addition to this, there's so we've also got the story of PlayStation layoffs, right? So we've had Xbox, say that they're releasing games on PlayStation and Switch, but before that they had like massive layoffs for 8% of their workforce, whatever it is, like 1,900 or 1,000 across all their studios and divisions and whatever they're working on Xbox. And you're like, oh wow, like, and some of the initial reaction like from people would be like, oh, their Xbox is not doing well. But then you've got like Sony, like record profits or record revenue for PlayStation. Now they've just this week laid off like 900 across all their studios, including, Spider-Man, people from the Spider-Man team, which is apparently the fastest selling game on PS5 to date. And something is going on that it's hard to quantify, like what is happening. But also, I think Derek's article, who's our main games reporter, and he's I guess you would call him almost like an analyst when it comes to like gaming. Like he looks at the broader pictures and stuff like that. So he reported on the on PlayStation, on the layoffs, but also as well, I guess the main story that we want to discuss is that Sony is looking to grow PlayStation. So this it could be related to that. So when people were up in arms over the Xbox thing, we've got now Sony saying that they want to grow their first-party games on PS5, PC, and other platforms. And what does this mean? It basically means that they could end up going like the Xbox route of like day and date. Like, you know, if there's a new, like the new Indiana Jones game is going to come out on Xbox and PC day one. Starfield, which is an Xbox exclusive, or Bethesda is an Xbox studio. So that came out on Xbox and PC last year. And Sony has kind of like toyed with that this year with Helldivers 2, which has been an absolute smash hit. And it launched on PC as well as PS5, and that's a first-party published title. And so if you look into Derek's report of the layoffs as well as that statement from Sony, he basically highlighted something where I think is important, is that PlayStation is making record-breaking revenue, but their operating profit is low.
Yeah.
So they're making their profit margins are really thin. So you know, you got billions of dollars. Apparently they generated 9.76 billion over the 2023 holiday period, which is huge. But only made 580 million in operating profit during that quarter.
That's so strange.
Which is like 6% profit margin, which is pretty thin.
God, that's thin, isn't it?
Yeah. So so the head of Sony Interactive Entertainment, the CEO Hiroki Totoki, said that another driver, so that basically they're focused on how do we increase profits. So, and you know, with first party titles, which is your Spider-Man's, your Last of Us, your Uncharted's, Helldivers 2 now, is that they're looking for growth on PS5, PC, and other platforms. Other platforms probably means mobile and not Xbox, but who knows?
Or the Switch.
Or the Switch, like, because if all it takes is just one person to do it, right? Like, I think we discussed this a while ago. It's like, why are there console exclusives anyway? Like, it doesn't make sense in any other industry. When Microsoft was in that legal battle as they were trying to buy Activision, like the lawyers and the judges that aren't, you know, across console gaming, all they know is that kids play Fortnite and Roblox and that's it. Right? They were like, the lawyers had to explain to them, like, okay, so Halo, it's not on PlayStation. Like, you know, like it's confusing to them. Yeah. Like, you know, like why isn't it on all the platforms? Why aren't you trying to reach hundreds of millions of gamers? Why are you just limiting yourself to, you know, like it doesn't, like they didn't really understand, because no other industry really, really does that. It's like get as many, you know, and Microsoft is now the first one to say that, like, you know, they started with PC and now they're going to dip their toes into PlayStation. Yeah. And if they start releasing games on all platforms on day one, like they will with Call of Duty this year, all that means is that like Sony can follow suit. Like, you know what I mean? Like Sony were never going to be the first to do it.
No, of course not. I think we talked about this last week where we were discussing the price per transistor and how Sony's business model internally up until what appears to be recently was to gather exclusive titles and redirect buyers towards hardware sales. And now that the hardware sales are becoming more expensive price per transistor wise, looking to the future of the PS5 Pro and the PS6, their profit margins are going to be even smaller than what they are now.
That's right.
So they're put between a rock and a hard place. Either they give us raw performance with these next consoles, because everyone is expecting, and appropriately, that the next consoles will be more powerful. So if they choose to give us raw performance, then the end consumer is going to pick up the bill for that, and the console will be like the PS3, where it was like $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that when the PS3 launched.
Yeah,
like some obscene price. That
was crazy.
Like, what?
That was crazy. Or they give us something that's like, you know, within 15% on in terms of raw horsepower in perf.
But that doesn't generate excitement.
It doesn't, but AI upscaling technologies that give us a 4K 120 FPS console does. Then you can market the console, the PS5 Pro, as a 4K 120 FPS console. And at the same time, if you do that, you save money on cost for hardware. The end user doesn't have to spend $1,000 to get the next console. And now you can start to license your exclusive first-party titles to other platforms such as Microsoft. So they make money a different way. I think that's what we're seeing in terms of the shift of the market. Is hardware is becoming more expensive. The consoles are meant to be bought by people that can't afford a PC, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like they need to be an affordable product for them to be effective at what they're intending to be. So if they can't make money on terms of hardware, and it's for years they haven't really been making money per console sold, and software and Microsoft is bringing down its walls of exclusivity. So now gamers are going, well, if Xbox can do it, why can't Sony? And it's like, well, Sony doesn't have Windows. Yeah. So it's now forced to either make a really expensive console and have smaller profit margins, potentially less hardware sales, or make a still affordable console, market it with AI upscaling to give us the performance that we're expecting out of a next console, and then license their first party titles. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
I think they do all of it, right? I think they go for performance. I think they go for AI. I think they go all in. But I think they just change their business model, and then because like they have to grow, right? Well, I mean, they don't have to, like, but we're in a world where businesses have to grow.
Yeah.
The console business is weird, right? So this is another thing, that a fact that a lot of people don't necessarily realize, is that the amount of consoles out there hasn't really changed since the PlayStation 2 era. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good point.
There aren't, whereas the PC gaming market has exploded.
Yeah.
Since then, right? If you're looking at going back to like when Half-Life 2 originally launched, and that launched with Steam, the very first version of Steam, PC gaming was a very different landscape back then. But console gaming, in terms of audience and tribalism and Xbox versus PlayStation versus Nintendo, exactly the same. Hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So Sony releasing Last of Us Part 1 remastered 2 years after, or a year and a half after the PlayStation 5, that changes. That's going to be
shorter.
Maybe not straight away, day and date, but it's going to be a lot shorter.
Yeah, it'd be about a year, I expect.
Games like Helldivers 2, if there's any multiplayer in it, day and date, 100%. They realized that like, you know, Helldivers, the reason why it's such a smash hit is because they hit a zeitgeist of PlayStation gamers and PC gamers.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with like Power World, right? Power World became like the biggest Game Pass title because it launched on Xbox Game Pass, but also launched on PC and Steam. Yeah. And it hit that zeitgeist of people going, oh, I have Game Pass, I can play it on PC or Xbox. But then all your PC gamers that aren't interested in Xbox, they just picked it up on Steam because it was the big thing.
Yeah.
So like you kind of like, they see that and like you can't ignore it anymore.
Oh no, it's a proof of concept that this is what they need to do. Is that about all you had on that? I know you were getting strapped for time here, so I might do a speed round of all this news that I've got to get through.
All right, let's do a speed round.
Okay, so these are developing, well, a few of them are developing stories. So Epic Games has reportedly been hacked by a ransomware group. nearly 200 gig of data has stolen. So reports from WCCF Tech, which cited Cyber Daily, saying that a relatively newcomer to the hacking scene, Mogilevich, yeah, whatever. New hacking group has reportedly infiltrated Epic Games servers, stolen 189 gigabyte of data, includes emails, passwords, full names of accounts, payment information, source code for titles, and more. So this is a purported story at the moment. Epic Games hasn't confirmed whether this has occurred or not. And also the ransomware group haven't provided any proof of their claims, but what they have done has put up a price, an undisclosed price for the data, and set a deadline for March 4. So this hasn't been confirmed yet, but what I would recommend everybody do, just as a precautionary measure, just change your Epic Games account, maybe get rid of your payment. I mean, it might be too late for the payment information, but just change your password. Donald, you're going to say something.
No, I was going to say, like just change your passwords.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is real or not, but I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to it.
But also, like, ransomware stuff is growing.
Oh, definitely.
Like, there's more ransomware attacks than ever.
Definitely.
But like, my thing is like, what is Epic's stance on it? Like a lot of these companies aren't paying the money, so like, and then all this data just gets leaked.
Yeah.
Like, like when Insomniac and the Sony stuff from like months ago, that was just high profile because it is like gaming. So it was like, oh, look at this.
Yeah.
We're seeing all these financial information and all this footage for games that are just in early development that haven't even been shown yet or whatever. But there's so many of this that occurs that, like, I don't know. Like when it comes down to like what data has been taken, like as you said here, like if it's like full names of accounts, payment information, like it's like, okay, that's when you have to just make sure that your banking information is completely
safe,
locked down.
Yeah, it is bad. We'll keep you updated if there is a confirmation from Epic Games that they...
Because if it's payment information and you're looking at Fortnite and all these parents and credit cards and they won't even know, like this is like that's
a big story.
That's basically you have to cancel your credit card.
Yeah, that sucks. Okay, moving on to the next one, I reckon. I don't want to keep you longer than you have to. Can't be leaving a Zeus. Can't stand up a Zeus.
No.
Okay, so we've got a bit of cool vintage video game history right here. So a 22-year-old has discovered a copy of a 1987 The Legend of Zelda. He put it up on eBay for anywhere. He was thinking he was going to get anywhere between $17,000 and $20,000. In quotations, if I'm lucky. As soon as he put it up, eBay buyers were flocking to this sale. They were saying that he had immediate checkouts of people trying to purchase it for $20,000, and then even one buyer offered him $30,000 cash to immediately drive to his location, give him $30,000 in cash, and for the copy of the game. So this seller, which is going by the name Kiro, to remain anonymous.
Because this is sealed, that's why it's a holy grail.
Yeah, right? It is. It is one of the highest grades. He realized that this listing was getting extreme attention, and he pulled it down immediately. He pulled it down after getting so much attention. And then what was strange, and in a positive way, is he got a message from a video game collector and said, hey, can you just jump onto a call? I want to tell you about what you actually have. The guy informed him, this collector informed him, it was an extremely rare piece, as it was a part of the first production run of the 1987 The Legend of Zelda. Sealed and graded. Well, he went and got it graded, and it was deemed one of the holy grails of video game collection. Now, notably, the sealed video game of the same year sold for an astonishing $705,000 at an auction. Yeah. And I just thought that was awesome. That, I mean, I also think it's funny that he put it up there for $20,000, and then like everyone's like, yeah, no, I'll buy that immediately. I'll buy that.
I'll drive to your house and give you 30 grand in cash today.
Yeah, today. Wild. And here's just a quote. I'll just read a couple quotes from him. It's really kind of a miracle. Something in me told me to put it up that night. And within those few minutes of getting sold, I got connected to the right person. I feel like without that guidance, I would have been somewhat lost. He genuinely wanted to help, and he's referring to the video game collector. He was excited about seeing this go to market and wanted me to get what it was worth. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was a bit of a wholesome story of just like that guy didn't really.
It's a feel good story.
Yeah, he didn't need to help him. He didn't need to do that.
No.
But yeah,
I could have fleeced him and said, "I'll drive over now and give you 40 grand in cash."
I mean, I would have done that. Yeah, and I would have been that bloke that would have been like, I'll give you $30,000 and a high five for that game right now. Let's go. So moving on, a bit.
Probably only got time for one more story.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well then we would do the United States making history with the first moon landing since 1972, but there is one major problem with it. So for the first time since the Apollo era, a United States built spacecraft has landed on the surface of the moon, and it is also the very first privately built US spacecraft, lunar lander I should say, that has landed on the moon. It is, complete world's United States first. And the company is Intuitive Machines. It has sent the Odysseus lunar lander to our closest neighbor. It is carrying multiple NASA science instruments. And the major problem was that it landed and now it has tipped over. So
so that's the problem.
It's a slight issue. Yes, so it has fallen over, which is if you check out the article,
I see the picture of Intuitive Machine CEO demonstrating.
Yeah,
that it's like holding a toy, like a figurine of like a action figurine, going like, this is what happened. He's standing up and now he's falling.
So there's a few reasons, possible reasons why it fell over. The CEO said that it could have, one of its feet could have landed on a rock and it essentially just tipped over, or it is it fell into a crater. So like where it landed, one of the feet, there was nothing there. Now it's tipped over into a crater. But the data that they're gathering from Odysseus is everything is still working. There is still some solar panels in the correct orientation to gather light, which then gives it energy. So they can still carry out the mission. It is still deemed a success, even though Odysseus is bit on the piss at the moment. He's not looking. I mean, he's not happy, and also the Odysseus's antenna are still working, but data transfer, sending and receiving is a bit delayed. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the smoothest of landings, but congratulations, we have now landed something on the moon for the first time since 1972, which is
asterisks, but it has fallen down.
It has fallen. Yes, it's fallen over.
Odysseus has fallen. Sounds like a action movie.
At the time of this podcast recording, we're still going through all of the data. Intuitive Machines is still assessing like total damage, like did we lose some science instruments, but all preliminary data is saying that it's healthy, it's fine, it's still got power. Power is probably the main issue when it comes to these things, as solar is critical for the mission to even go ahead. But yeah, so we'll keep you updated when there's more like an official analysis on Odysseus's health, and we'll get back to you on that. But yeah, awesome. The first lunar landing, US built lunar landing since the Apollo era. I think that's it's amazing.
That's good news.
It's amazing. Yeah, I suppose that's about it. You got to go run off to a Zeus, and yeah, we'll maybe I'll just no, that's okay. No, that's all right. No dramas.
Yeah, we'll just have a bumper episode next week.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll whatever we didn't cover in this week's episode, we'll make sure, like such as the new Nintendo Switch release window, Apple's EV. What else didn't we hit on? I think that was about it.
Yeah, and we'll cover that next week.
We'll get back to you then. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. Please go check out the YouTube. Check out the TikTok for clips, and hope you have a good day.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thanks.